The imperial palace of Velkar Prime gleamed under twin suns, its crystalline towers reaching toward the purple sky like frozen lightning. Inside the Emperor's private chamber, the light was dying. Emperor Taman lay motionless in his stasis pod, his once brilliant body now dim and flickering like a candle in the wind. Princess Hana stood beside her father's chamber, watching the monitors display numbers that meant nothing good. The doctors had stopped trying to explain the details to her. All she needed to know was written in the fading light of her father's body. He was dying and nobody could save him. She pressed her hand against the cool surface of the stasis pod. Through the transparent material, she could see the Emperor's cardiac crystal, the living gem at the center of his chest that served as his heart. It had once glowed with brilliant white light, pulsing with the quantum energy that kept all Velkari alive. Now it was gray, its light reduced to occasional weak flickers. The door behind her opened with a soft chime. Hana did not turn around. She knew who it was by the heavy footsteps. "Another suitor has arrived, Your Highness," said Chancellor Bora, her father's oldest advisor. "Prince Vekthar of the Krovar clans. He brings an army of 10,000 warriors as a wedding gift." Hana closed her eyes. "Tell him to leave. Your Highness, please. By the ancient laws, you must choose a mate before the Emperor passes. If you do not, the throne goes to Duke Sangwu and he will drag us into war with the Thessian League within a year." "I know the law, Chancellor." "Then you know you have no choice. Your father has perhaps 20 days left, maybe less, 20 days. Hana felt something inside her chest tighten, though her people did not have the same emotional responses as organic species. The Velkari felt through resonance, through the quantum frequencies that connected all their hearts. Right now, she felt the entire imperial city resonating with grief. They all knew the Emperor was dying. They all felt his fading presence in the network that bound them together. "How many suitors are in the palace now?" Hana asked quietly. 17, Your Highness. And more arrive each day. Warlords, politicians, scientists, even a collective consciousness from the Nexus uploaded into an android body. They do not want me, Chancellor. They want the throne. They want the Empire. Perhaps some do, but that is the nature of royal marriage. You must choose the one who will be the best ally, the strongest partner for our people." Hana finally turned to face the old Chancellor. Bora's crystalline form was deep red, marked with the white patterns of advanced age. She had served Hana's family for 200 years, longer than Hana had been alive. "What if I refuse them all?" Hana said. Bora's bioluminescent patterns flickered with surprise. "You cannot. The law says I must choose before my father dies. It does not say I must choose one of the suitors who come seeking power." Hana walked past the Chancellor toward the window. Outside, she could see the floating gardens of the capital city, crystal and light-forming structures of impossible beauty. Her people had built a civilization that spanned 3 star systems. They had mastered quantum technology that other species could barely comprehend. They were powerful, advanced, proud. And yet they could not save one man. "What are you thinking, Your Highness?" Bora asked carefully. Hana turned back to face her. "I am thinking that warriors and politicians will not save my father. I am thinking that 17 suitors want my hand, but none of them care that my father is dying. None of them have even asked about him. Because they know our best physicians have declared him beyond saving." "Our best physicians?" Hana repeated the word slowly. "Our physicians. Velkari physicians trained in Velkari medicine, thinking Velkari thoughts." She looked back at her father's chamber. "Perhaps we have been looking at this wrong." Bora's patterns shifted to orange, indicating confusion. "I do not understand. My father's cardiac crystal is failing. The quantum resonance is collapsing. Our physicians have tried every treatment in the Imperial Medical Database. They have failed." Hana's voice grew stronger. "But there are other species in the galaxy. Other physicians. Other ways of thinking. You wish to bring alien doctors here? I wish to offer a different challenge." Hana walked to the chamber's communication console. "Prepare the Imperial broadcast system. I will speak to the entire palace." "Your Highness, what are you planning?" Hana's bioluminescent patterns shifted to bright blue, the color of determination. "I am going to reject every traditional suitor and offer them all a challenge they cannot meet." 20 minutes later, the throne room filled with suitors from across the galaxy. Prince Vekthar stood near the front, his massive form covered in bioengineered armor. Beside him was Ambassador Taeyong of the Thessian League, her four eyes studying Hana with calculated interest. The android containing the Nexus Collective hummed with electronic consciousness. Warlords, diplomats, scientists, and nobles from a dozen species all gathered, expecting the princess to finally make her choice. Princess Hana entered the throne room alone. Tradition demanded she wear the imperial regalia, but she wore only simple robes. Let them see her as she was, not as what they wanted her to be. The room fell silent as she took her place before the empty throne. Her father's throne. It would remain empty until he recovered, or until she took a mate and claimed it herself. "Honored guests," she began, her voice carried by quantum resonance to every corner of the vast chamber. "You have come from across the galaxy seeking my hand in marriage. You have brought gifts of armies, technology, trade agreements, and promises of power. I thank you for your interest." She paused, letting the words settle. Several suitors shifted, sensing something unexpected coming. "However, I must reject all current offers of marriage." The throne room erupted in shocked voices. Chancellor Bora, standing to the side, closed her eyes as if in pain. Hana raised her hand and silence returned. "I reject these offers because none of you have demonstrated that you care about what matters most to me. My father, Emperor Taman, lies dying in the medical wing. Our greatest physicians have declared him beyond saving. His cardiac crystal is failing and there is no known treatment." She let those words hang in the air for a moment before continuing. "Therefore, I offer a new challenge. Whoever can save my father's life will earn my consideration for marriage. Not my hand, not the throne, but my genuine consideration. Prove to me that you care about more than power. Prove to me that you see beyond the crown." Prince Vekthar stepped forward, his voice booming. "Princess, I am a warrior, not a healer. This challenge is impossible for most of us here." "Then perhaps the wrong people are here," Hana replied calmly. "I need a partner who thinks beyond war and politics. I need someone who solves impossible problems. If you cannot meet this challenge, you are free to leave with my gratitude for your interest." Ambassador Taeyong spoke next, her voice smooth and diplomatic. "Your Highness, even if we brought our best physicians, your father's condition is unique to Velkari biology. No other species understands your cardiac crystals well enough to treat them." "Perhaps," Hana said, "or perhaps fresh eyes will see what familiar ones have missed. I am not demanding success. I am demanding effort. Show me that you will try when others have given up." The android's electronic voice hummed through the chamber. "And if we all fail? If your father dies despite our efforts?" Hana felt her patterns dim slightly. "Then at least I will know I tried everything. And I will choose a mate knowing they stood beside me during the darkest time, not just arrived to claim the light." She turned to leave the throne room, then paused and looked back at the assembled crowd. "The challenge is open to anyone, not just those present. The announcement will be broadcast to all Galactic community members. We have perhaps 20 days. Use them wisely." As Hana left the throne room, she heard the chaos erupting behind her. Suitors arguing, some storming out in anger. Others immediately calling their homeworlds for physicians. Chancellor Bora caught up with her in the corridor. "That was incredibly risky, Your Highness." "I know. Duke Sangwoo will use this. He will claim you are stalling, avoiding your duty." "Perhaps I am," Hana admitted, "but I cannot marry for politics while my father dies. I will not." They walked in silence for a moment before Bora spoke again, her voice softer. "Your father would be proud of you. Even if this fails, he would be proud." Hana felt tears forming, though her crystalline eyes could not shed them the way organic species did. Instead, her bioluminescent patterns flickered with grief. "I just want him to live, Chancellor." "Is that so much to ask?" "No, child. It is not." That night, the Imperial broadcast went out across the galaxy, transmitted through hyperspace relays to every world in the galactic community. Most species dismissed it as impossible. A few sent physicians out of diplomatic courtesy, and on a small blue planet on the outer edge of civilized space, a human scientist named Jinho Park read the message and saw something nobody else did. He saw a pattern he recognized, and he saw a chance to try when everyone else had given up. Dr. Jinho Park sat in his small office at the Titan research station, staring at the holographic display floating above his desk. The message from Velkar Prime had arrived 3 hours ago, and he had read it at least 20 times since then. His colleagues thought he was crazy for even considering it. "You cannot be serious," Dr. Lisa Chen said, leaning against his doorframe. She was the station's lead geologist and one of Jinho's few friends in this isolated corner of the solar system. "Jinho, The Velkari are one of the oldest species in the galactic community. If their physicians cannot save their emperor, what makes you think you can? Jinho zoomed in on a specific part of the medical scan that had been included with the public announcement. The Velkari had been desperate enough to share limited data about the emperor's condition, hoping it might inspire someone to try. Most scientists saw only an alien biology they did not understand. Jinho saw something different. "Look at this pattern," he said, pointing to the quantum frequency readings from the cardiac crystal. "See how the resonance is collapsing inward? It is not random. It follows a specific cascade sequence." Lisa squinted at the display. So I have seen this before. Not in living organisms, but in crystalline structures. 3 years ago on Europa, we studied quantum-entangled ice formations that were collapsing due to radiation exposure. The pattern is almost identical. Almost is not the same as identical, Jinho. No, but it is close enough to investigate. He pulled up his old research data and placed it side by side with the Emperor's scans. The Velkari cardiac crystal is not just an organ. It is a quantum structure that maintains coherence through entanglement. If that entanglement gets disrupted, it collapses like your ice formations did. Exactly. Jinho leaned back in his chair, rubbing his tired eyes. He had not slept much since the message arrived. The Velkari physicians are trying to treat it like a disease. They are using chemical interventions, energy injections, all the traditional medical approaches. But what if it is not a medical problem? What if it is an engineering problem? Lisa was quiet for a moment. Even if you are right, you do not have access to the patient. You do not have the equipment. And you definitely do not have the time. That message said the Emperor has less than 20 days left. I know. So what are you going to do? Jinho looked at the medical scans again, then at the photo on his desk. It showed a young woman in a white coat smiling at the camera. His sister Minji, now in her final year of medical school, alive because one doctor had been willing to try when everyone else said it was impossible. I am going to send them a message, Jinho said quietly. I am going to tell them I cannot promise success, but I can promise I will try. Lisa shook her head. You are either very brave or very stupid. Probably both. Jinho spent the next hour composing his message. He kept it simple and honest. He explained his background, his research on quantum-entangled crystalline structures, and his observation about the similarity between the Emperor's condition and the phenomenon he had studied. He did not make grand promises or claim he had all the answers. He simply said he would try. He sent the message expecting nothing. The Velkari Empire probably received thousands of responses from physicians and scientists across the galaxy. Why would they pay attention to one human from a species that had only joined the galactic community 15 years ago? The reply came in 6 hours. Princess Hana herself had written back, and her message made Jinho's heart race. She had reviewed his research papers on quantum crystalline structures. She had consulted with her physicians about his theories. And she was offering him immediate transportation to Velkar Prime, all expenses paid, full access to the Imperial medical facilities. I do not know if you can save my father, her message concluded, but you are the first person who looked at his condition and saw a possibility instead of an impossibility. Please come. Please try. 3 days later, Jinho was on a Velkari diplomatic ship traveling through hyperspace toward the Empire's capital world. The journey would take 3 weeks even with the fastest available transportation. He used every moment to study, downloading every piece of information about Velkari biology he could access from the galactic database. There was frustratingly little available. The Velkari guarded their biological secrets carefully, sharing only basic information with other species. Their cardiac crystals remained one of the great mysteries of xenobiology. Most of what Jinho learned came from general cultural databases rather than medical texts. The Velkari were an old race, nearly 8,000 years of recorded civilization. They were silicon-based rather than carbon-based, their bodies formed from living crystal that could change shape and color through quantum manipulation. Their hearts were not pumping organs but quantum resonators that maintained the coherence of their entire body structure. Damage the heart and the whole body would eventually lose cohesion and fall apart. The ship's captain, a Velkari military officer named Kyung-soo, checked on Jinho regularly during the journey. He seemed puzzled by the human's presence. You are very young, Kyung-soo observed during one of these visits. How old are you in standard years? 32, Jinho replied, not looking up from his studies. Young indeed. Most physicians who responded to the princess's challenge have centuries of experience. I am not a physician. I am a xenobiologist specializing in crystalline structures. Kyungsu's bioluminescent patterns shifted to orange, which Jinho had learned indicated surprise or confusion. You are not even a doctor of medicine? No. Then why did the princess grant you passage? We rejected dozens of actual physicians. Jinho finally looked up from his work. Because I told her I would try. And I meant it. Kyungsu studied him for a long moment, his crystalline features impossible for Jinho to read. Then his patterns shifted to blue. I hope you succeed, human. The Emperor is a good man. The Empire needs him. What about Princess Hana? Jinho asked. What does she need? Her father, Kyungsu said simply. Everything else is politics. When the ship finally emerged from its last hyperspace jump and Velkar Prime appeared in the viewport, Jinho felt his breath catch. The planet was beautiful beyond description. Floating cities of crystal caught the light of twin suns and scattered it into permanent rainbows. The oceans below were not water, but liquid crystal that reflected the sky in impossible colors. It is something, is it not? Kyungsu said, standing beside him at the viewport. This is what we fight to preserve. This is what the Empire has built over 8 millennia. The ship descended through the atmosphere and docked at the Imperial Palace's private landing platform. Jinho gathered his few belongings, mostly datapads and research equipment, and prepared to disembark. His hands were shaking slightly, not from fear exactly, but from the weight of what he was about to attempt. The platform was crowded when the airlock opened. Jinho had expected perhaps a minor official to greet him. Instead, he found himself facing Princess Hana herself, surrounded by guards and advisors. She was smaller than he expected. The images in the Galactic database made her look imposing, regal, distant. In person, she was perhaps 5 feet tall, her crystalline body a deep blue color with veins of silver light pulsing slowly through it. Her large, multifaceted eyes focused on him with startling intensity. Dr. Park, she said in perfect English. Thank you for coming. Jinho bowed awkwardly, unsure of the proper Velkari greeting protocol. Your Highness, I came as quickly as I could. One of her advisors, an older Velkari with deep red coloring, stepped forward. You are not what we expected, human. The princess has taken a great risk in bringing you here. Do not waste our time. Chancellor Bora, please, Hana said, her voice firm but not unkind. She turned back to Jinho. You must be exhausted from the journey. We have prepared quarters for you, and you will have time to rest before beginning your examination of my father. With respect, Your Highness, I would prefer to begin immediately. You said in your message that time is critical. Hana's bioluminescent patterns shifted, flickering through several colors too quickly for Jinho to interpret. Then she nodded. Very well. Follow me. They walked through corridors of crystal and light, past gardens that grew inside the palace walls, past rooms filled with technology Jinho could barely comprehend. Other Velkari stopped to stare at him as they passed. Some patterns showed curiosity, others showed contempt. They wonder why I brought a human here, Hana said quietly, noticing his discomfort. They wonder why I am trusting our Emperor's life to someone from a species that only discovered quantum travel a generation ago. I wonder that too sometimes, Jinho admitted. Hana glanced at him, and for a moment he saw something in her expression that transcended species differences. Desperation, hope, fear. You are here because everyone else saw my father's condition and saw death, she said. You saw it and saw a puzzle. That is what I need right now. Not another doctor telling me it is impossible. I need someone who thinks it might be possible. They reached the medical wing, a vast chamber filled with equipment both familiar and alien. At the center, in a large stasis pod, lay Emperor Taemin. Jinho approached slowly, his scientific mind already analyzing what he saw. The Emperor's body was almost completely dark, only the faintest flickers of light remaining. His cardiac crystal was visible through his translucent chest, a geometric structure about the size of a human fist. It should have been glowing brilliant white. Instead, it was gray and dim, its edges starting to lose definition. How long does he have? Jinho asked quietly. 12 days, one of the Velkari physicians answered. Perhaps less. The degradation is accelerating. Jinho walked around the stasis pod examining the Emperor from every angle. Monitors displayed information in Velkari script, which his translator implant converted to English with varying degrees of success. He saw quantum frequency readings, energy level measurements, cellular cohesion indexes. I need complete access to all his medical data, Jinho said. Everything you have tested, everything you have tried, every scan you have taken. I also need samples of healthy cardiac crystal tissue for comparison. We cannot give you living tissue, Chancellor Bora said sharply. That would require harming another Velkari. Then give me dead tissue. Surely your morgues have samples from deceased individuals. The physicians looked horrified. That is not how things are done. I do not care how things are done, Jinho interrupted, his voice harder than he intended. Your Emperor is dying. Either help me save him or explain to your princess why you let Protocol kill her father. The room fell silent. Everyone looked at Princess Hana. She met Jinho's eyes for a long moment. Then she turned to her physicians. Give him everything he asks for. Full access. No restrictions. Your Highness? Chancellor Bora protested. No restrictions, Hana repeated. Dr. Park has traveled across the galaxy to help us. The least we can do is actually let him try. Jinho nodded his thanks. As the physicians began gathering the requested data, he turned back to the Emperor's stasis pod. Somewhere in that failing crystal structure was a pattern, a clue to what went wrong. He just had to find it. 12 days to do what the greatest physicians in 3-star systems could not do. 12 days to save an Emperor and maybe, just maybe, prove that humanity belonged among the stars. No pressure at all. Jinho did not sleep the first night. While the Velkari palace rested under the glow of twin moons, he sat in the laboratory they had provided him, surrounded by holographic displays showing the Emperor's medical data. The dead cardiac crystal sample sat in a containment field on his workstation, its gray structure looking nothing like the living, pulsing gems he had seen in healthy Velkari. The problem was obvious. The solution was not. He started at the atomic level, scanning the dead crystal's structure with every instrument available. Carbon dating showed it was approximately 300 years old, taken from a Velkari who had died of natural causes. Under normal circumstances, a cardiac crystal maintained perfect quantum coherence throughout a Velkari's life. But this one had lost all resonance within hours of the individual's death. Why? What maintained the coherence during life that failed after death? Jinho pulled up the Emperor's current scans and placed them side by side with the dead sample. The patterns were similar but not identical. The Emperor's crystal was dying, but it was dying slowly, fighting against whatever was killing it. The dead crystal had simply stopped like a machine suddenly unplugged. He was still staring at the data when morning came. A soft chime announced a visitor. Princess Hana entered the laboratory, carrying a tray with what appeared to be Velkari food and human coffee. You did not come to your quarters last night, she said, setting the tray on a clear section of the workstation. The guard said you never left the laboratory. I got busy, Jinho replied, taking the coffee gratefully. It was terrible coffee, probably synthesized by the palace food processors from Earth database files, but it was hot and had caffeine. That was enough. Hana looked at the displays surrounding him. Have you found anything? Questions. Lots of questions. No answers yet. What kind of questions? Jinho hesitated. Princess Hana was intelligent. He knew that from their correspondence. But she was not a scientist, and Velkari education focused on politics, history, and culture rather than medicine or physics. How could he explain quantum entanglement and resonance collapse to someone without that background? Then again, she had asked, and she deserved honesty. Your cardiac crystals are not really organs in the biological sense, he began slowly. They are quantum computers in a way. They maintain quantum coherence across all the particles in your body, keeping your crystalline structure stable and functional. But quantum coherence is fragile. It requires constant maintenance, constant energy input. Something maintains that coherence in living Velkari. When your people die, that something stops working, and the cardiac crystal loses coherence within hours. Hana listened carefully, her bioluminescent pattern steady blue. Our physicians say the cardiac crystal generates its own energy through quantum fluctuations in the vacuum. That is what your medical texts say, yes. And it is partially true, but I do not think it is the whole truth. Jinho pulled up another display, this one showing quantum frequency readings from multiple healthy Velkari. Look at these patterns. Every healthy Velkari has slightly different quantum frequencies in their cardiac crystal, but there is an underlying harmony. All the frequencies are related to each other mathematically. I do not understand. Your hearts are connected to each other somehow. Not physically, but quantum mechanically. They share entanglement, which means they are maintaining coherence together rather than individually. It is like singing in a choir. One voice alone might falter, but together they create harmony that sustains all of them. Hana's patterns flickered rapidly. That is not in any medical text I have read, because your people might not know it is happening. Quantum entanglement is not something you can feel or see directly. It just is. Jinho pointed to Emperor Taemon's scans. But look at your father's frequencies. They are isolated, alone. There is no harmony with other Velkari. His cardiac crystal is trying to maintain coherence by itself, and it is slowly failing. How is that possible? My father has lived his entire life on Velkar Prime, surrounded by our people. I do not know yet, but that is what the data shows. Jinho took a long drink of the terrible coffee. Your physicians have been trying to fix his cardiac crystal directly, pumping in energy, stabilizing the quantum states artificially. But they are treating the symptom, not the cause. If I am right, your father's crystal is dying because it has been cut off from the quantum network that connects all Velkari. Hana sat down slowly on a nearby chair. Is there any way to reconnect him? Maybe, but I need more information. I need to understand how that network functions in healthy Velkari. And I need to figure out why your father got disconnected in the first place. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Hana spoke again, her voice quieter. Why are you really doing this, Dr. Park? My chancellor is right. You are young. You are not even a physician. You could be building your career on Earth, publishing research, teaching. Instead, you are here, trying to save someone you have never met for a species you barely know. Jinho looked at the Emperor's scans, then at the princess. My sister was born with a heart defect. The doctors in Korea said it was inoperable, that she would not live past her 10th birthday. My parents were preparing for her death. But one doctor, a specialist from Kenya visiting our hospital, he looked at her case and saw something the others missed. He performed a surgery that had only been attempted twice before. It worked. She is alive today because someone cared enough to try when everyone else had given up. So you are repaying a debt. No. I am doing what I wish more people would do. I am trying. He turned back to his displays. Your father is dying and maybe I cannot save him. But I will not let him die without knowing that someone tried everything possible. That someone looked at the impossible problem and refused to accept it was impossible. Hana was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice carried an emotion that translated across species barriers. Thank you, Dr. Park. Whatever happens, thank you for trying. The next several days fell into a pattern. Jinho worked in the laboratory, analyzing data, running simulations, testing theories. Princess Hana visited regularly, sometimes bringing food, sometimes just sitting quietly while he worked. She began helping him translate Velkari medical terminology that the automatic translators struggled with. She explained cultural context that was missing from the dry medical reports. The Velkari physicians were less helpful. Most of them resented the human's presence and refused to collaborate. They saw Jinho's theories as the desperate guesses of someone out of his depth. Only one physician, a young crystallographer named Daeun, showed any interest in his work. You are thinking about this differently than we do, Daeun said one afternoon, studying Jinho's quantum entanglement models. We focus on the individual. You focus on the collective. Because I think the collective is what matters, Jinho replied. Your people are connected in ways you do not fully understand. That connection is what keeps you alive. If you are correct, then why has no one noticed this before? We have been studying our own biology for thousands of years. Because you are too close to it. It is like asking a fish to describe water. You have lived with quantum entanglement your entire existence, so you think it is normal, individual. You do not realize you are all part of a larger system. Daeun's pattern shifted to purple, which Jinho had learned indicated deep thought. There are old stories, legends, about Velkari who went too far from home, traveled to the edge of explored space and fell ill. We always assumed it was cosmic radiation or some environmental factor. But what if it was separation from the network? Exactly. How far did they travel? The stories do not say exactly. They are very old tales, probably exaggerated. Jinho pulled up a star map. Where are the boundaries of Velkari space? Down highlighted several systems. Jinho ran calculations, measuring distances, looking for patterns. Quantum entanglement could theoretically work across any distance, but maintaining it required some kind of medium, some kind of connection. What if your cardiac crystals stay entangled through something in Velkari space itself? Jinho thought out loud. Some kind of quantum field generated by the density of Velkari population. When your people travel too far from that field, they start to lose connection. Then how does the Emperor lose connection while living in the palace, surrounded by millions of Velkari? That was the question. Jinho stared at the Emperor's medical history, going back years looking for anything unusual. Assassination attempts, illnesses, injuries, anything that might explain the disconnect. He found it on day 7 of his 12-day deadline. 30 years ago, Emperor Taemin had survived a political assassination attempt. The weapon used was an exotic particle beam, something called a quantum disruptor. It had been aimed at his cardiac crystal but had been partially deflected by his guards. The medical report said the Emperor had recovered fully after 6 months of intensive treatment. But had he really recovered? Jinho pulled up every scan from that period and compared them to current readings. The disruptor had done more damage than anyone realized. It had not just injured the cardiac crystal. It had severed some of its quantum entanglement with other Velkari. Not completely, but partially. For 30 years, the Emperor had been slowly losing connection to the network that sustained him. His cardiac crystal had been compensating, working harder to maintain coherence alone, gradually wearing itself down. Now it was failing completely. "I found it," Jinho said aloud, even though he was alone in the laboratory. "I know what is killing him." He ran to find Princess Hana. She was in the Imperial Gardens, walking alone among crystalline flowers that chimed softly in the breeze. She turned when she heard him approaching, her patterns shifting to alert orange. "Dr. Park, what is wrong?" "Nothing is wrong. Everything is right. I know what is killing your father." The words tumbled out in a rush. The assassination attempt 30 years ago did not just damage his cardiac crystal. It severed his quantum entanglement with other Velkari. He has been slowly dying ever since, his heart trying to work alone without the support of the network. That is why your physicians could not save him. They were treating him as an individual when the problem is his isolation. Hana's patterns flickered rapidly. "Can we reconnect him to the network?" "I think so, but not with any technology your people have. Your physicians do not even fully understand that the network exists, so they have never developed tools to work with it." Jinho pulled out his datapad and showed her his calculations. "But humans have been researching quantum entanglement for decades. We use it in our computers, our communication systems. We have developed tools to create and maintain entanglement artificially." "You can entangle my father's cardiac crystal with other Velkari artificially?" "Maybe. It has never been done before. The technology exists on Earth, but it is experimental, and I would need to modify it significantly to work with living crystal instead of computer processors." He met her eyes. "Princess Hana, this is not a safe procedure. The risk of killing your father during the attempt is very high. If we get the quantum frequencies even slightly wrong, we could cause a resonance cascade that would destroy his cardiac crystal instantly. What happens if we do nothing? He dies in 5 days. Maybe less." Hana looked out at the gardens, at the palace beyond, at the city glowing under twin suns. When she turned back to Jinho, her patterns were steady blue, determined. "Do it," she said. "My father would rather die trying than die waiting." Jinho nodded slowly. "Then I need to get to work. And I need Daeon's help. Maybe other physicians too, if any will listen." "They will listen," Hana said firmly. "I will make sure they listen." As they walked back to the palace together, Jinho felt the weight of what he was about to attempt. He was going to try to do something that had never been done before, using technology designed for computers on a living being from an alien species. The margin for error was essentially 0, but he had promised to try. And now finally he had a plan. Whether it would work was another question entirely. The next 3 days were chaos. Jinho worked almost without sleep, designing a device that had never existed before. Half human quantum computer technology, half Velkari bioengineering cobbled together from whatever equipment the palace could provide. He called it a quantum resonance bridge. Though that name did not really capture what it was supposed to do. It was supposed to trick the Emperor's cardiac crystal into thinking it was still connected to other Velkari. to create artificial quantum entanglement where natural entanglement had been severed, to rebuild a bridge across a gap that should not exist. If it worked, the Emperor would live. If it failed, he would die instantly, his cardiac crystal shattered by resonance feedback. This is insane, Chancellor Bora said for the 10th time, staring at the device Jinho and Daeun had constructed. It looked like nothing either species had built before, a hybrid of crystalline structures and human electronics, glowing with soft blue light. You are asking us to trust our Emperor's life to this experiment. We are asking you to let us try, Jinho corrected, making another micro-adjustment to the quantum field generators. His hands were shaking from exhaustion and too much bad coffee. Doing nothing means certain death in 2 days. This gives him a chance. A small chance, Daeun added. She had become Jinho's closest collaborator, the only Velkari physician willing to fully embrace his unconventional theories. Dr. Park estimates 63% probability of catastrophic failure. 63% chance of killing him, you mean? Another physician said. No, Jinho replied sharply. 63% chance the procedure fails and nothing happens. If that occurs, the Emperor dies as he would have anyway. There is also about 12% chance of partial success, where we extend his life but do not fully restore him. And approximately 25% chance of complete success. 25%, Chancellor Bora repeated. 1 in 4. Better odds than 0, Princess Hana said. She had been present for every planning session, understanding little of the technical details but supporting Jinho's efforts completely. Chancellor, my father would take these odds. You know he would? Bora's patterns shifted through several colors, settling finally on resigned blue. Very well. But if this kills him, human, you will face justice under Velkari law. If this kills him, I will deserve it, Jinho said quietly. The procedure was scheduled for the following morning. Jinho spent the night running simulations, checking his calculations again and again. He found Daeun doing the same thing in her own workstation. Can I ask you something, Dr. Park? She said without looking up from her work. Of course. Why do you think humans are so good at this? At finding solutions others miss? Jinho considered the question carefully. I do not think we are better at solving problems, but I think we are better at trying impossible things. Most species in the galactic community are older than humanity, more advanced, more knowledgeable. They know what is possible and what is not. Humans do not know that yet. We are too young, too ignorant. So we try things that should not work, and sometimes they do. Daeun's patterns flickered with something that might have been amusement. Ignorance as an advantage. That is a very human perspective. Maybe, but it got me here, didn't it? The night passed too quickly. When morning came, the medical chamber filled with people. Physicians, guards, government officials all come to witness either a miracle or a disaster. Princess Hana stood closest to her father's stasis pod, her patterns dim with stress. Emperor Taemin had been awakened from stasis for the procedure. He was conscious but weak, his body barely glowing. When he saw Jinho, he managed to speak, his voice barely above a whisper. You are the human, he said. The one who thinks he can save me. I am the human who is going to try, Your Majesty, Jinho replied. Good enough. The Emperor's patterns flickered with what might have been a smile. If I die, know that I am grateful someone tried. You are not going to die, Princess Hana said firmly, though her patterns betrayed her fear. You are going to be fine. The Emperor looked at his daughter with obvious love. Whatever happens, I am proud of you. You chose well? Jinho did not have time to wonder what that meant. The procedure needed to begin now, before the Emperor got any weaker. He and Daeun positioned the quantum resonance bridge around the stasis pod, making final adjustments to the quantum field generators. The device hummed softly, harmonizing with the Emperor's faint heartbeat. Jinho checked his readings one last time. Everything was as perfect as he could make it. Beginning procedure, he announced. His voice was steadier than he felt. This will take approximately 6 hours. Once we start, we cannot stop. Any interruption could be fatal. He activated the first phase. The quantum resonance bridge began to glow brighter, its light pulsing in rhythm with the Emperor's cardiac crystal. Jinho watched his instruments carefully, making tiny adjustments to maintain the delicate balance. The theory was elegant. The execution was terrifying. He was essentially creating artificial quantum entanglement between the Emperor's cardiac crystal and the device, then using that entanglement to connect the Emperor to the broader Velkari quantum network, like building a bridge from the Emperor to the nearest healthy Velkari, then expanding that bridge outward. The problem was that quantum systems were fragile. Any interference, any miscalculation, and the whole thing would collapse, possibly taking the Emperor with it. 2 hours in, the first crisis hit. The Emperor's cardiac crystal began resonating at a frequency that did not match the bridge. Jinho saw the readings spike and immediately began compensating, adjusting the quantum fields to match the new frequency. "What is happening?" Princess Hana asked, her voice tight with stress. "His cardiac crystal is fighting the entanglement," Jinho explained, his hands moving quickly across the controls. "It has been isolated for 30 years. It does not remember how to connect properly. Can you fix it?" "I am trying." Dayun worked beside him, adjusting the bioengineering components while Jinho handled the quantum fields. They fell into a rhythm, anticipating each other's moves, working as a seamless team despite coming from different worlds with different approaches to science. Slowly, carefully, they coaxed the Emperor's cardiac crystal into resonance with the bridge. The readings stabilized. Jinho allowed himself a moment of relief before beginning the next phase. Phase 2 was the most dangerous part. This was where they would actually attempt to connect the Emperor to living Velkari, starting with Princess Hana herself. She had volunteered immediately when Jinho explained he needed someone close to the Emperor, someone whose quantum frequencies would be naturally compatible. "Ready, Your Highness?" Jinho asked. Hana stepped up to the stasis pod, placing her hand on its surface directly above her father's cardiac crystal. "Ready?" Jinho activated the second phase. The quantum resonance bridge began to pulse faster, creating an entanglement field that encompassed both the Emperor and the Princess. For a moment nothing happened, then Hana gasped. "I feel him," she whispered. "I can feel his heartbeat. It is so weak, so tired." "That is the entanglement forming," Jinho explained, watching the readings carefully. "Stay calm. Breathe. Your cardiac crystal is showing him how to connect again." The Emperor's light began to grow slightly brighter. Not much, but enough to be visible. His quantum frequencies started to synchronize with Hana's, falling into harmony after 3 decades of isolation. "It is working," Dayun said, her patterns bright with excitement. But Jinho knew they were not done yet. Connecting the Emperor to one person was not enough. They needed to connect him to the broader network, to the millions of Velkari living in the capital city around them. Phase 3 began. Jinho expanded the quantum field, reaching beyond the chamber, beyond the palace, out into the city itself. The quantum resonance bridge began pulling in frequencies from other Velkari, thousands of them, creating a web of entanglement that centered on the Emperor. This was the moment where everything could go wrong. The Emperor's weakened cardiac crystal might not be able to handle the sudden influx of quantum connections. It might overload and shatter. The readings spiked. The Emperor's body began to glow brighter, but the light was unstable, flickering rapidly between dim and bright. His cardiac crystal was trying to accept all the connections at once, struggling to process 30 years of lost entanglement in minutes. "His resonance is destabilizing," Dayun reported, her voice sharp with alarm. "I see it." Jinho's hands flew across the controls, trying to slow the connection process to give the Emperor's crystal time to adapt. But he was losing the balance. Too slow, and they would not complete the entanglement before the Emperor's strength failed. Too fast, and the shock would kill him. Princess Hana suddenly spoke, her voice strange and resonant. "Let me help." Before anyone could stop her, she closed her eyes and began to hum. It was not a sound that human ears could fully process. A quantum vibration that bypassed normal hearing and resonated directly in the bones. The other Velkari in the room felt it and instinctively joined in, their collective humming creating a harmonic frequency that filled the chamber. Jinho watched in amazement as the harmonic frequency stabilized the Emperor's cardiac crystal. The chaotic flickering settled into a steady pulse. The entanglement expanded smoothly, connecting the Emperor to one Velkari after another, building a network of quantum harmony that grew stronger with each new connection. The Emperor's light grew brighter. The gray faded from his cardiac crystal, replaced by healthy white luminescence. His body gained definition, his features becoming clear and sharp again. His patterns began to display color, shifting from dim nothing to vibrant blues and purples. 6 hours after the procedure began, Jinho deactivated the quantum resonance bridge. It had done its job. The Emperor's cardiac crystal was now fully entangled with the Velkari network, connected to millions of his people through quantum frequencies that would sustain him for the rest of his life. Emperor Taman opened his eyes. They were clear and bright, fully conscious for the first time in weeks. That, he said in a strong voice, was extraordinarily uncomfortable. The room erupted in relief and joy. Physicians rushed forward to check his readings. Guards relaxed their alert stances. Chancellor Bora's patterns flickered through a dozen colors, unable to settle on any one emotion. Princess Hana stood frozen, staring at her father. Then she moved, placing her hand on his chest directly over his cardiac crystal. Through the quantum entanglement, through the network that now connected them properly, she felt his heartbeat. Strong, steady, alive. "Hello, daughter," the Emperor said gently. "I am still here." Hana made a sound that Jinho did not have words to describe. It was grief and joy and relief all at once, a resonance that every Velkari in the room felt through their shared network. Jinho stepped back, watching the reunion, suddenly aware that he was shaking from exhaustion and stress. Dayan touched his shoulder gently. "You did it," she said. "You actually did it." "We did it," Jinho corrected. "I could not have done this without your help." As the Velkari celebrated, as the Emperor spoke with his physicians and embraced his daughter, Jinho felt something strange. A warmth in his chest, a rhythm that was not quite his own heartbeat. He looked at his medical scanner in confusion. His human heart, organic and simple compared to Velkari cardiac crystals, had somehow become partially entangled with the quantum network. The device had bridged not just the Emperor to other Velkari, but had accidentally bridged Jinho as well. His heartbeat now echoed through every Velkari in the capital city, a strange organic rhythm mixed into their crystalline harmony. He did not know what that meant. But as he felt the collective joy of millions of Velkari celebrating their Emperor's recovery, as he felt Princess Hana's relief and love, he thought that maybe it was not such a bad thing. For the first time in human history, a human heart beat in harmony with an alien civilization, and it felt right. Emperor Taman recovered quickly. Within 3 days, he was walking the palace corridors. Within a week, he was holding court again, dealing with imperial business that had piled up during his illness. The palace physicians monitored him constantly, amazed by how stable his cardiac crystal had become. The artificial entanglement was holding perfectly, integrated so completely with the natural Velkari quantum network that they could barely detect where one ended and the other began. Jinho stayed in the palace during this time, monitoring the Emperor's condition and making adjustments to ensure the entanglement remained stable. He told himself he was being professionally responsible. He tried not to think about the fact that he was avoiding the inevitable conversation about Princess Hana's promise. The suitors had returned. Not all of them, but enough. Prince Vekthar of the Krovar clans, Ambassador Taeyong of the Thessian League, and several others who had initially left in frustration. They had heard the news of the Emperor's recovery and come back to claim what they believed they were owed. Princess Hana had promised to consider marriage to whoever saved her father's life. Jinho had saved the Emperor. By the logic of her challenge, she owed him consideration. The problem was that Jinho did not want to marry a princess. He was a scientist, not a politician. He had come to save a life, not to win a throne. The entire situation made him deeply uncomfortable. He tried to avoid thinking about it by throwing himself into research. He spent hours analyzing the quantum entanglement network, documenting everything for future reference. The Velkari were fascinated by what he had discovered about their own biology. Chancellor Bora had already commissioned a full study into the quantum network, wanting to understand how their species had evolved this collective consciousness without ever recognizing it. "You are hiding in your laboratory," Dayan said one afternoon, bringing him yet another cup of terrible synthesized coffee. "I am working," Jinho replied without looking up from his data. "You are avoiding the princess." "I am busy." Dayan's patterns shifted to what Jinho had learned was amusement. "Dr. Park, you saved our Emperor. You have become the most famous human in 3 star systems. The princess wishes to speak with you about fulfilling her promise, and you are hiding behind quantum frequency readings." "I am not hiding. I just do not know what to say to her." "The truth would be a good start." Jinho finally looked up. "The truth is that I do not want to marry her." I did not come here for that. I came here to try to save her father, and I did, and now I want to go home and return to my normal life. But if I say that, I insult her honor and probably create a diplomatic incident between Earth and the Velkari Empire. Or, Daeun suggested, you could actually talk to the princess instead of making assumptions about what she wants. Before Jinho could respond, the laboratory door opened and Princess Hana entered. Daeun made her exit quickly, patterns flickering with amusement at Jinho's obvious discomfort. Hana looked different than she had during her father's illness. Her patterns were brighter, more colorful. The stress and grief that had dimmed her light had lifted. She looked, Jinho thought, like someone who could breathe again. "Dr. Park," she said formally, "may I speak with you?" "Of course, Your Highness." She walked to the window, looking out at the crystal gardens below. "The suitors have been demanding I fulfill my promise. They say that by the terms of the challenge I owe you consideration for marriage." Jinho's stomach tightened. "Your Highness, please let me finish." She turned to face him. "They are correct, of course. I made a public promise and I must honor it. But I find myself in an interesting situation." "What situation?" "You have not asked me for anything. Every other suitor has spent weeks demanding I fulfill my promise, telling me what they deserve, what they are owed. But you have said nothing. You saved my father's life, earned the right to my consideration, and then hid in your laboratory like you were afraid of me." "I am not afraid of you." "Then what are you afraid of?" Jinho struggled to find words. "I'm afraid of being something I'm not. I am a scientist. I am not a prince, not a politician, not someone who knows how to rule an empire. I came here to save your father, not to marry you. If I accept your offer, I would be claiming something I never wanted and probably do not deserve." Hana's patterns shifted through several colors before settling on soft blue. "Do you know what you just did?" "You told me the truth. No manipulation, no political calculation, just honesty. Do you have any idea how rare that is in imperial politics?" "I am not good at politics." "Exactly." She smiled, an expression that translated clearly despite the differences between their species. "Dr. Park, may I tell you what I see when I look at you?" "If you want." "I see someone who traveled across the galaxy for a stranger. I see someone who worked himself to exhaustion trying to solve an impossible problem. I see someone who values life over power, who thinks about what is right rather than what benefits him." She paused. "I see someone who makes terrible coffee but shares it anyway because it makes people smile. Someone who explains complex science in simple words because he wants others to understand. Someone who sees me as a person, not as a princess." Jinho felt his face getting warm. "Your Highness, Hana. When it is just us, call me Hana." "Hana," he said carefully. "I appreciate what you are saying, but I still do not understand what you want from me." She walked closer to him, her crystalline features reflecting the soft light of the laboratory. "I want to ask you a question, and I want you to answer honestly. Do you like me?" The question caught Jinho completely off guard. "What, as a person? Setting aside titles and politics and all of that. Do you like me?" Jinho thought about the past few weeks, about Hana bringing him food when he forgot to eat, about her sitting quietly in his laboratory, just being present while he worked, about her fierce defense of his unconventional methods, about the way she made him laugh during the most stressful moments. "Yes," he admitted, "I like you. You are smart and kind and stronger than you think you are. You care about your people and your father more than you care about power. You are interested in learning new things even when they are difficult to understand, and you have terrible taste in coffee but drink it anyway to be polite." Hana's patterns brightened considerably. "Good, because I like you too. Which makes this next part easier." "What next part?" "Dr. Park, by the terms of my challenge, I owe you consideration for marriage. Not marriage itself, but consideration. So I'm going to ask you to consider something with me." She gestured for him to join her by the window. Outside, the crystal gardens glowed in the light of the setting suns. "The Velkari Empire has existed for 8,000 years, Hana said. "We have become powerful, advanced, proud. But we have also become isolated. We think we know everything. We have stopped looking at ourselves with fresh eyes, stopped questioning our assumptions. You showed us that we did not even fully understand our own biology. I just looked at the data differently." "Exactly. You brought a human perspective to a Velkari problem and found a solution we could not see. My empire needs that. Not just once, but constantly. We need collaboration with species who think differently than we do. We need to stop being so certain of our superiority. She turned to face him directly. I am proposing something that has never been done before. A partnership between our peoples, starting with a partnership between us, not because of ancient laws or political necessity, but because we work well together. Because different perspectives create better solutions. Because I want to build something new. You are talking about marriage, Jinho said slowly. I am talking about choice. The suitors who returned want to claim me like a prize. They think they are owed something. But you have never claimed anything. So I'm asking you, not as a princess fulfilling a promise, but as someone who likes you and wants to know you better, would you consider staying? Would you consider building this partnership with me? Jinho looked at her, at this alien princess who had somehow become familiar over the past few weeks. He thought about returning to Earth, to his small laboratory on Titan, to his comfortable, predictable life. Then he thought about staying here, about being part of something larger, about facing challenges he could not imagine yet. I am not good at imperial politics, he said. Good. I need someone who will tell me the truth, not what I want to hear. I do not know Velkari customs. I will make mistakes, and I do not know human customs. We will learn together. This will be complicated, difficult. People will question whether a human belongs in the Velkari royal family. They already question everything I do. At least this time I will have someone interesting to face the questions with. She paused. I am not asking you to become Velkari, Jinho. I am asking if you would consider staying as yourself. A human scientist who thinks differently, who solves impossible problems, who cares more about doing the right thing than about gaining power. Jinho thought about his sister, about the doctor who had saved her life by trying when everyone else had given up. He thought about how that moment had shaped his entire life, had brought him to this strange place at this strange time. Maybe the point was not to repeat the moment but to pass it forward. To be the person who tried, who chose compassion over caution, who built bridges instead of walls. Can I think about it? He asked. This is a very big decision. Hana's patterns showed pleased surprise. Of course. Take all the time you need. But know this. You are the first person I have asked. Every other suitor asked me, demanded from me, tried to claim me. But you never did. That should tell you something about why I want this partnership to be with you. She started to leave, then paused at the door. Also, I want to show you the crystal caves on Velkar's third moon. They are beautiful, and you would appreciate them scientifically. And I would like to see this Earth you speak of, this planet that produces scientists who think impossible things are worth trying. After she left, Jinho stood at the window for a long time, watching the twin suns set over the alien city. He felt his heartbeat, that strange rhythm that now echoed through millions of Velkari through the quantum network he had created. He was already connected to this world in ways he had never imagined. The question was whether he was brave enough to deepen that connection. He thought about it for 3 days. He made lists of reasons to stay and reasons to leave. He called his sister on Earth, talked to her for hours about choices and fear and the future. She told him that their parents would support whatever he decided, that his laboratory position would wait for him if he wanted it, but also that opportunities like this did not come twice. Do you love her? Minji asked. I do not know. Maybe it has only been a few weeks. Do you want to find out? That was the real question, Jinho realized. Not whether he loved Hana now, but whether he wanted the chance to discover if he could. On the 4th day, he went to find Princess Hana. She was in the Imperial Library reading through historical texts about human-alien diplomatic relations. She looked up when he entered, her patterns shifting to hopeful blue. I have been thinking about your proposal, Jinho said. And I want to be honest with you about something. I do not know if I can be what you need. I do not know if I can handle imperial politics or if I will be a good partner for you. I cannot promise success. Hana's patterns brightened. Is that a yes? It is a, I am willing to try, which seems to be my answer to most things lately. She stood and walked to him, taking his hand. Her crystalline fingers were warm, humming with quantum energy. Through the entanglement network, Jinho felt her heartbeat synchronize with his. Willing to try is good enough for me, she said. It is what brought you here in the first place. 6 months later, the wedding ceremony combined Velkari tradition with human custom, broadcast across both civilizations. It was chaos trying to merge 2 completely different cultural approaches to marriage. But somehow they made it work. Hana wore a gown that shifted between solid and crystalline states, adapting to light in ways that human eyes could barely process. Jinho wore a suit woven with quantum-entangled fibers that pulsed in harmony with Valkyrie heartbeats. Emperor Taman officiated, fully recovered and stronger than he had been in decades. He smiled broadly throughout the ceremony, his patterns displaying obvious joy. The ceremony culminated in a resonance binding, a Valkyrie tradition where hearts synchronize their quantum frequencies. Through the artificial entanglement network that connected him to every Valkyrie, Jinho felt his human heartbeat join the greater chorus. It was not perfect harmony. His organic rhythm was different from their crystalline pulses, creating an unusual pattern in the music. But different did not mean wrong. It meant new. It meant possibility. As Jinho and Hana shared their first kiss, a completely human gesture that confused many Valkyrie but delighted the Emperor, Jinho felt the quantum network carry a wave of emotion. Curiosity, hope, joy, acceptance. The marriage meant more than just two people choosing each other. It represented a new era. Earth and the Valkyrie Empire established formal scientific exchange programs. Human medical technology began integrating with Valkyrie bioengineering. Young scientists from both species started collaborating on projects that neither could accomplish alone. And at the center of it all, two people who had found something unexpected. Jinho had come to Velkar Prime to save a life. He had stayed because he found someone who valued honesty over flattery, who wanted partnership over ownership, who saw him for who he was rather than what he could provide. Princess Hana had rejected every suitor because they wanted her crown. She had chosen Jinho because he had never wanted anything except to help. In the end, that made all the difference. Years later, when historians studied this moment, they would point to it as the beginning of the Great Collaboration, the era when humanity and the Valkyrie Empire learned to combine their strengths and create something greater than either could achieve alone. They would analyze the political implications, the technological breakthroughs, the cultural exchange. But Jinho and Hana knew the truth was simpler. It started with one person who refused to give up, one person who was willing to try when everyone else said it was impossible. It started with compassion, with curiosity, with the simple human belief that caring about others was never wasted effort. The quantum resonance network that connected all Valkyrie now carried a permanent human heartbeat. Every Valkyrie in the Empire felt it, a steady organic rhythm mixed with their crystalline frequencies. It reminded them that they were not alone in the universe, that the most unlikely partnerships could heal what seemed broken, that sometimes the greatest strength was simply refusing to stop caring. Jinho never sought to be a hero or a prince or a bridge between worlds. He only wanted to save one life because it was the right thing to do. But in saving one life, he changed two civilizations forever. He proved that humanity's strength was not in matching other species' capabilities, but in approaching problems with fresh eyes and genuine compassion. And he found love in the last place he expected, in crystal gardens under alien stars, with a princess who rejected every suitor until she met the one who came not to claim her, but to help her father live. That was what humanity had to offer the galaxy, not superior technology or military might, but the stubborn refusal to accept that trying was not worth it. The belief that every life mattered, that every problem deserved effort, that giving up was never the answer. As Jinho stood beside Hana, watching their two people celebrate together, feeling his heart beat in harmony with millions of crystalline aliens, he thought about his sister's question. Did he love Hana? Yes, the answer was yes, and that made everything that came after worth it.